Most parents want their teens and their kids to talk to them. But I think what they really, really want, I know this is for me anyway, is for my children to trust me. And trust isn't built through perfect parenting or clever questions. It's built when a child learns that I can bring my heavy feelings here and I won't be rushed, fixed, or talked out of them. Today, we are talking about how to create that kind of space for our kids and our teens. Ones where kids feel safe enough that they can open up to talk to us as parents. Hello, my name is Janae. I'm a wife, a mother of 6, and a former middle school teacher. In 2020, I pulled my remaining 4 kids to start homeschooling. Now I'm here to help you transition from public school to homeschool so that you can take the hearts and minds of your children back. Welcome to the School to Homeschool podcast. Today, I want to focus on how we as parents can create emotional safety so that teens feel free to talk to us. Teen communication isn't asking better questions. It's about being a safe presence. So there's 4 things that I want to focus on today. And so with that, let's get into it. I've had to learn a really hard lesson over the last several years of parenting. I have kids in their 20s all the way down to elementary age. My oldest is 27. My youngest is turning 10 here very soon. And I've failed in a lot of ways over the years. Being present and open enough in a safe space to talk is one of those things that I've had to learn the hard way. And so the first thing I want to talk about is that I had to learn how to become available when on the child's schedule. What do I mean about that? By that, kids open up to us not when we are ready, but when they are ready to talk. It's on their timing, and we're going to talk about, like, not all kids are the same. We're going to talk about that here in a minute, but sometimes when we want them to talk, they don't want to talk. They're not in a place maybe at that time of their day, or maybe they have to process their feelings. But we have to be available when they're ready to talk. Now, I say this because this is something that I've struggled with, in that I have a couple kids who love to open up late at night when I want to go to bed, when I'm tired, and I don't want to be listening to kids, at bedtime. But those are the times with a couple of my kids that's when they want to talk. And so have I set boundaries at times? I've been like, listen, it's late. Can we talk about this in the morning? And sometimes the answer is yes. But then there's other times that I've noticed, like, they need me and they need me right now. And even though it's hard and I'm exhausted and I have nothing left to give, that I have to make that time and that availability for them, because that lets them know that what they need becomes a priority for me. Now, again, I've had to set boundaries with a couple of the kids where I'm like, okay, I love talking to you. Is this something, can this wait till the morning? And sometimes it's yes, and other times it's no. But I try to keep as available as possible. And I had to learn that the hard way, that even if it's late at night, or if I'm in the middle of something and there comes a need and they need to talk to me, maybe I'm busy working on dinner or working on a project or whatever, that I'm there to listen. And sometimes they've come when I'm cooking and they just want to they just start talking to me and they want to talk. And I have to shut off my headphones and stop listening to whatever podcast I was listening to at that moment, or whatever audiobook or YouTube video or whatever I was working on. That I've had to learn to shut that off and let them know that they're more important than that thing, even though it's not convenient for me. I have to be ready for them. That's the first thing that we have to do that creates an emotional safety for them to talk to us, is be available on their time, on their clocks, on their little schedules. Again, are there times that we need to set appropriate boundaries? Absolutely. But sometimes we have to sacrifice things like time alone or podcasts or sleep because they need us and we're the parents and we have to be parents. So that's the first thing, that we be available when they need us to be available. Number 2, can we listen without fixing? Teens want connection before correction. Oftentimes I feel like advice, it shuts down the conversation really fast. And what they want us to be is just there, just listening without judgment, just hearing and listening, expressing that we understand, that we validate their feelings, and we just listen. This is another thing that I've had to learn the hard way over many years of parenting, is that I don't always have to have a moral lesson to share with my child when they want to talk to me. Sometimes they just want me to listen. I had my 9-year-old say that to me, "Mom, I just want you to hear me. Can you just hear me for a minute? But don't say anything." And here I've been parenting for many years, and I still am reminded of that we have to just pause and listen. Even with friends, if you ever notice, sometimes with friends, all we want is somebody to just sit and listen. I think about, there's a couple parts in Winnie-the-Pooh, the book, which is, I think, one of the most brilliant books that's ever been written. And I feel like it's written for us as parents as much as it is for children. But there's this part where Eeyore, actually there's a couple parts, Eeyore is really, really sad. And Pooh goes and asks him, like, is everything okay? And Eeyore is like, no, it's not. And Pooh just sits there with him. It just sits there. I'll share these two. This one. Pooh came up to him, patted him on the shoulder, and said, "Oh, Eeyore, I'm so sorry about your house." "It's not my house," said Eeyore. "Oh," said Pooh. "Whose house is it?" "Nobody's." "Oh," said Pooh. Pooh sat down beside him, and together they sat in silence. Right? He was just a calming force. Even though Eeyore chose not to say anything, Pooh became a safe space for Eeyore to just be. And our kids need that. They need us to be Pooh. They need us to be Winnie-the-Pooh. Another time, in another part of the book, he says, "Good morning, Eeyore," said Pooh. "Good morning, Pooh Bear," said Eeyore gloomily. I'll say it gloomily. "Good morning, Pooh Bear," said Eeyore gloomily. "If it is a good morning," he said, "which I doubt." "Why, what's the matter?" asked Pooh. "Nothing, Pooh Bear, nothing. We can't all, and some of us don't. That's all there is to it." Pooh thought this was a very good thing to say. So he said nothing more, but sat down and stayed with Eeyore. Whew. He just sat there with him. Recently, my teenage daughter asked, she's like, "Mom, can you just come? I'm working on this project for my class. I want you to come and just sit with me." And y'all, I said no. And then I kicked myself after. So the next time she asked, "Can you just come and sit with me?" I said yes, because I realized that was a big parenting fail, right? She needed me. And instead I went to bed because I was so tired. But sometimes they just want us to sit with them. Just sit with them. Just be with them. Just to be present with them, even if nothing is said. They need us to be there, to be Winnie-the-Pooh to Eeyore. And then as they start to open up and talk to us, I've had to learn the hard way not to react. not to go, oh my gosh, da, 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 which I have. I've done that so many times. And I find that my kids shut down immediately the second I start to react, or the second I start to try to moralize. I see them, their eyes gloss over, when really all they needed me to do was sit and be and listen and just be the Winnie-the-Pooh presence that's just there. It's just there. When we validate them, when we listen and then validate, that keeps the communication doors open. It keeps the relationship door open, as opposed to slamming it shut the second that we start to get on our soapboxes with our kids, right? They just want us to listen. Okay, number 3. So that was number 2. Number 3 is side-by-side conversations. At least for me, I've noticed that my kids open up most when we're doing something, whether it's yesterday after church, I had my husband take the other kids home. We drove in 2 separate cars, and my teenage daughter and I drove home, and she just wanted to talk. It was a perfect place to talk too. Nobody else was around. I let her, she was driving, right? And so she was driving and she was able to talk to me, and she didn't have to stare at me in the face, because sometimes that's intimidating, even if it's our family members, to sit and just stare, right? We were doing something. We were driving, or sometimes taking a walk or cooking. My kids love to talk to me when I'm cooking, because they can talk to me without me staring at them, because I'm staring at what I'm doing, or they're cooking with me. Yes, last night we were making these really cool cookies that my family has made for 3 generations for Valentine's Day, and my 2 girls were helping me with them, and they were just chatting my ears off. And then when they were done, we turned on an audiobook, and it was like just this beautiful moment that I got to hear their hearts, and they got to hear each other's hearts, and we talked, and I didn't have much to say. I just listened and laughed, and it wasn't like they were having these serious conversations, right? Sometimes conversations are just like, this is what happened in my day, and I just want you to be part of my life. And that's good. It doesn't always have to be big, but having, like, as we're working with the dough and cooking, it was a perfect time for them to open up. Doing puzzles, or as we're working on chores together, great opportunities to sit and talk. Sometimes going out to lunch, just one-on-one, a great opportunity to talk, because you're sitting there eating, and then they can just talk, but you don't have to stare at each other because you've got food in front of you. So if we can create opportunities for side-by-side conversation, it makes the conversation so much better and so much easier, and so much easier for them to open up to us. I know my husband and I love to take walks at night, and that's when we can, we don't have to sit and stare at each other. We're moving our bodies, and that's when we have great conversation. It's the same with our kids. It's less pressure, less eye contact, and it enables them to be more open. So side-by-side conversations is number 3. Number 4 is that as parents, we need to recognize that personality and timing matters. Every child opens up differently. And we have to become aware of the patterns of the different kids, especially for those that are in large families. Like, we need to notice when the doors are opening for conversation with our kids. Now, as I've mentioned, I've got 6 kids, and my kids are as different as humanly possible. I have one, my 19, almost 19-year-old son loves to talk to me at night. Like, that's when he loves to open up, is at night. My 9-year-old, the second she gets in the car, the second she wakes up, if she's been in an activity and I go and pick her up, We have a rule that I'm not allowed to be listening to an audiobook, that I am not, again, this has been a parenting fail in the past, that I've been on the phone with a friend or a sister, one of my sisters, when she gets in the car, and she's told me, like, I feel, so she's an intensely emotionally intelligent child. And she said, listen, when you are on the phone or when you are listening to a podcast and you pick me up, I need you to be with me and listen to what I have to say, because that's when I need to get things out. Okay. She's 9. And again, incredibly emotionally intelligent. I was talking to one of my kids about that. They're like, she is one of the most emotionally intelligent people I've ever met. And she's so little. But that's when she, like, the second she gets in the car, blah, 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 right? She is a chatterbox. I wonder where she gets that from. But then my 13-year-old son, who is intensely quiet, when he's ready to talk, he'll talk. He'll come down and he'll talk to me. And it's usually during the day, and it's usually when I'm doing something. Let me give you for instance. He's doing a little internship, and we were driving to the internship, and it's a very long drive for us. It's like 30 to 40 minutes. And so we were driving there, and we were listening to an audiobook together, and he turns just out of the blue. And usually, like, if I try to ask him questions, he gives one-word responses naturally, like with everybody. He's like, sounds good. Just not a talker. And so fun to be with, but he doesn't talk a lot. And he's like, I like being quiet. I like just listening. So we're driving along, and all of a sudden he turns off the audiobook, and he's like, I need to tell you something. And I was all attention because he does not talk very often. I'm like, yeah, what do you want to tell me? And then he told me this thing, and I'm like, oh, well, that's good to know. I didn't know you felt that way about that thing. He's like, yep, I do. I'm like, that's pretty awesome. Okay. Cool. Then he turns back on the audiobook, and we get to the place, and he gets out of the car. He's like, love you, Mom. That was a good talk. It was like a 2-minute talk, but for him, that was a big talk, right? So we have to be available when they're ready to talk to us, and understand and recognize that they're not all going to have at the same time. Like, they're not all going to want to open up at the same time, nor are they going to all want to share everything that's on their mind. That particular child, the quiet one, if he starts to cry about something and I try to press him on it, if he's upset about something, he will not share with me. Eventually he'll come to me, but if I'm like, what's going on? Why are you sad? Why are you crying? He won't say anything. Usually he wants me to just hug him and then let him go. And then about 20 minutes later, he'll come and say, this is why I was upset. I've had to learn that pattern. I've had to learn, okay, I am to be quiet. I'm to hug him if he's upset, and then let him be. And when he's ready, he comes to me. So we have to, that fourth thing is we have to be aware of their personality and their timing. So those are the 4 things. Now, if you are one of those parents who does not have their child's heart, and you know that, they don't want to talk to you, they want nothing to do with you, they're embarrassed by you, I have a suggestion for you. There is a book called Hold On to Your Kids by Dr. Gordon Neufeld. He is an attachment psychologist. For those that are new to this podcast, here's your introduction to him. For those that have listened for a while, I've spoken about Dr. Neufeld's work a great deal. I even did a whole podcast episode on how do we get their hearts back when we've lost their hearts. And is it possible to get a teenager or a young adult's heart back, that's our child, when we've lost it? And the answer is absolutely 100%. And so if you're listening to this and you're like, yeah, my child won't talk to me at all, my suggestion is you're going to have to reclaim their hearts. So read the book, Hold On to Your Kids by Dr. Gordon Neufeld. You can also watch the podcast episode where I talk about his work and give you specific examples of things that you can do to get their hearts back. I'll put the links to those in the show notes. But once you do start, this, by the way, is is part of getting their hearts back, if you don't already have them back, is being a safe place for them to come talk without judgment. Not that you're, if they've done something really, really bad, that that there aren't going to be consequences, but sometimes there has to be delay in the consequences. There has to be a listening without a lot of reaction first. I've had to learn that the hard way as a parent who's dealt with some pretty big things with kids. So just to recap, if you don't have your kids' hearts, this is something that you can do to start reclaiming them, but there's also other things that you can do. So check out the resources I told you. But otherwise, if you already have their hearts and you want to keep that line open, make sure you're available when they need you. Listen without fixing them or moralizing. Just listen. Give them plenty of opportunity to have side-by-side conversation, and be aware of their personalities and their timing, so that when it comes, you are there and you are ready to sit with them. Like I said before, Winnie-the-Pooh gives us the example. He simply sits down and says, I'll just sit with you, even if you have nothing to say. He just is present. So that's the invitation for us as parents, not to fix every feeling, but to be present enough that our kids don't feel alone in them. Our teens don't need us to be the experts. They just need us to be safe spaces for them to come to, for them to run to. With that, my friends, you are doing so much better than you think you are. You got this. We will talk next week.